Today on FYC, me and the panel discuss the passing of Michael Clarke Duncan, Jim Carrey joins Kick-Ass 2, the triumph of Ben Affleck with ARGO, and a few things more. So hang on tight, For Your Consideration starts right now. This is AMC's For Your Consideration, movie talk for movie fans. This is episode number 11, originally recorded on Thursday, September the 6th, 2012. Justice Forever. For Your Consideration is recorded live at the beautiful AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Greetings, salutations, everybody. Welcome to the new installment of AMC For Your Consideration, movie talk for movie fans. This is our movie podcast. Hey, listen, we're sorry we weren't around on Monday. For those of you who are international fans, it was a holiday here, and so we took Monday off, but we are back and better than ever. Joining me to my immediate right, she's the associate editor of AMC Movie News. She's Miss Roth Cornet. Roth?
Hello. Excited for today.
Are you?
Yes, because I'm planning to be highly amused by the gentleman to my right.
Sitting to Roth's right, he is, of course, the director of the popular animated show Metalocalypse, and I just found out, editor on Space Ghost Coast to Coast, which I loved that show, Mr. Jon Schnepp. John?
Hey, everybody. What's going on?
Thanks for being here, man.
Right on.
For those of you who don't know, we just love to talk about movies and movie news, and that's what we do here. For those of you who are joining us live right now, and you can watch this show live every Monday and Thursday at 11 a.m. Los Angeles time. That would be 2 p.m. New York time. You can follow us and watch us live at ustream.tv/channel/AMC-theaters. We'll put up the link below. Don't worry about it, remembering it. And for those of you who are watching us live, make sure you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on iTunes. Just search For Your Consideration, but that may change. Got a little bit of an announcement to make here. This is the last episode that this show will be known as AMC For Your Consideration. We are changing the name of the show. And the new name of the show, which is a little bit more descriptive, is simply AMC Movie Talk. So starting next week, the show will be known as AMC Movie Talk. But for today, it's FYC. And as we do every episode, we're going to start you off by getting you caught up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news. This is our news flash.
Dun, dun, dun.
Starting with this. This week, beloved actor Michael Clarke Duncan passed away at the age of 54. The giant of a man burst onto our collective consciousness with his 1999 Academy Award-nominated performance in The Green Mile with Tom Hanks. When you can get nominated for an Oscar in a film with Tom Hanks, you're doing pretty well. He also appeared in such films as The Whole Nine Yards, Armageddon, Daredevil, Sin City, and many, many others. He will be missed.
Last month, we reported that Jim Carrey was being wooed to play Colonel Stars, who is described as a military-themed superhero who founds the super team Justice Forever in the comic book comedy sequel Kick-Ass 2 Balls to the Walls. Well, guess what? It looks as though Carrey is officially on board. Director Jeff Wadlow tweeted, he's also, by the way, a self-professed fan of the original film. So this is what Jeff Wadlow tweeted. 6 days till we start shooting and we officially have our Colonel. Alrighty, effin' then. Comic book author Mark Miller followed that up with a post on his forums that seemed to confirm the tweet. Alrighty then, indeed.
Ben Affleck does it again. Affleck's new directorial effort, ARGO, which follows up his other directed films, The Town and Gone Baby Gone, has premiered at the Telluride Film Festival to absolute rave reviews. Many industry journalists who we personally know have been tweeting from the festival that the film is a quote-unquote triumph. The Hollywood Reporter says of the film that director Affleck scores again with tight and tense political thriller sparked by unexpected humor. When I asked our friend, award season expert Chris Tapley of Hit Fixes in Contention, he told me that Ben Affleck has to be considered one of the early frontrunners for a Best Director Oscar nomination.
Director David Slade has signed on to helm the cinematic adaptation of the young adult science fiction romance novel Matched for Walt Disney Pictures. Slade is best known for directing, of course, the third film in the equally popular, if not wildly popular, Twilight franchise, Twilight Saga Eclipse, but some people, such as myself, may remember him from his earlier cult favorites, Hard Candy, Awesome, You Should See It, and 30 Days of Night.
Also awesome, you should see it.
Matched is described thusly. In the society, officials decide who you love, where you work, when you die. Cassia has always trusted her choices, but she begins to question just how perfect her world really is when she notices that things are not what they seem. As Cassia begins to doubt the society's infallibility, she is faced with an impossible choice between Xander and Kai, between the only life she's ever known and a path that no one else has dared to follow. So it sounds like it's got a bit of an allegory in there a la the Hunger Games as well.
The first trailer for the upcoming fantasy film Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunters, has hit online. The film stars Jeremy Renner and Emma Arden. Renner has quickly shifted gears to become really a modern-day action star, having done such films as Mission Impossible, The Avengers, The Bourne Legacy. Hansel and Gretel follows the classic story of the two siblings who survive an encounter with an evil witch as children and have now grown up to be professional witch hunters.
Warner Brothers Pictures and Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer Pictures have announced that the third film in director Peter Jackson's now The Hobbit trilogy, it's, by the way, given the name of the second installment's previous title, The Hobbit, There and Back Again, is scheduled for release on July 18th, 2014. The second film will now be titled The Hobbit, and this is amazing, by the way, The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug.
Sigourney Weaver hinted some time ago that director James Cameron was working on not one, not two, but 3 sequels to the Avatar film for a total of 4 films. Well, that has apparently been shot down. Producer of the films John Landau recently stated that while they are indeed working on shooting back-to-back sequels for Avatar, there will not be a 4th Avatar film.
Universal is planning a sequel to Safe House, their action thriller hit from this past February. The film has made over $200 million worldwide since its release. Safe House writer David Guggenheim is set to pen the script, but there is no confirmation that either Ryan Reynolds or Denzel Washington, who starred in the first film, will return. Now, if anybody's seen the first film, one of those characters is easier to bring back than the other. So there is some speculation that the studio is aiming for a prequel rather than a sequel to the actioneer.
John Stevenson, the director of the original Kung Fu Panda film, which is actually a very pleasant surprise of mine, is reportedly set to direct Romeo and Juliet, Sherlock Gnomes, a sequel to the 2011 animated film Romeo and Juliet. The original movie, which featured voices of people like James McAvoy, Emily Blunt, Michael Caine, Maggie Smith, Jason Statham, Ozzy Osbourne, Patrick Stewart, Hulk Hogan, sounds like my last birthday party, and many others, took in just under $200 million at the worldwide box office. No official confirmation has been made yet about cast returning, but it is expected that McAvoy and Blunt will come back to reprise their roles as the lead characters.
I'm really excited about that one, guys.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going in a different direction with like Sherlock Holmes. That's unbelievable.
No.
They're doing something like that. So original.
And
I'm excited about it.
That is your news flash.
Except for one addendum, we have to print a retraction from the other week when somebody said pittingly and lovingly about Chris Tapley, our friend that we brought up in this newsflash.
Oh, yes.
He demanded a retraction, and so we are saying for the record that Chris Tapley is not only a scholarman, he is a scholarman. I have made up a word for him. He is so amazing. He is a scholarman and a gentleman to boot, and a lovely human being all around. There you go, Tapley.
You were not at the bachelor party that I threw for him in Las Vegas.
Good Lord, no.
Okay, so anyway, let's jump in. We got a bunch of things here. A number of those issues we're actually going to bring up and discuss. And we obviously, I think we need to lead off with this and talk about the passing of Michael Clarke Duncan, who was one of these guys. I mentioned this in an editorial we did on AMC's movie news site the other day. He's one of these guys, and I mean this wholeheartedly, even when he is in bad films, and he was in a few, whenever he came on screen, it just made me feel happy. I loved this guy. I mean, there was just there was a genuineness about him. I mentioned this in the editorial that he was one of these guys, and I've only ever said this about 4 or 5 guys in Hollywood, that he was one of these celebrities that when you would meet him and talk to him, he honestly made you feel like he was privileged that you would want to talk to him, as opposed to making you feel like you're privileged that I'm willing to talk to you. You know, he was one of those guys, just honestly and legitimately. I loved the opportunities I had to meet him. Obviously, I never got to know him, but he was just so sweet and genuine, great to be around, and I loved watching him in just about everything he was in. So, Roth, I want to start with you. When you think back on the career and life of Michael Clarke Duncan, what are some of his performances that really stand out to you?
I mean, I think it's impossible. I will say this. I didn't love all of his movies, but I always loved watching him. And I think I never met him. I never interviewed him. But everything that I've read says that he was exactly the guy that he appeared to be on screen, in that he just had a light to him. He just brought that with him everywhere he went. I feel like The Green Mile is it. I mean, what I really respect, though, is that this was a journeyman, and he was an actor and a working actor without being famous to any degree until he was 43 years old.
Right.
And then he landed The Green Mile. And I just respect sort of artists that are able to craft their lives that way. And it's almost a more desirable path in my mind, because I think fame probably brings a lot of things with it that are uncomfortable. But he certainly handled that well. Also, he handled getting incredibly famous with a lot of grace, which I think is probably a really hard thing to do. So that speaks volumes about the person that he was. But The Green Mile had a huge impact on me, and his performance did. And on a friend of mine, it really kind of changed her life. She really became, I don't want to get too much into the kind of politics of it, but she really became...
She stopped executing people?
She stopped executing people, which we all thought was excellent. You know, not as much fun to be around at parties, obviously, but in general, a good thing. And she actually really became against the death penalty, and she made that a huge focus in her life, which I thought was a big inspiration. But aside from that, he just radiated in that film, and I think very few people could have pulled off that character without it seeming saccharine to some degree. But because that really was who he was, seemingly, by all accounts, it worked.
John, what about you?
I love The Green Mile, but I'll flip it and say, like, Kingpin from Daredevil. Like, when I first heard that he got cast, I was like, that's going to work because he's such a good actor. He could bring, I just knew that it would work. Race regardless. It was like, that's a good actor. He's going to make it work. And that was one of the better parts of the Daredevil series. That movie was the Kingpin.
Yeah, I remember so many people were, I mean, and I get it. There's an initial, wait a second, because we all have this very steeped in vision of who and what Kingpin is.
Giant slab-like white guy.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, it's like 500-pounder.
But I remember when I watched the film, I'm like, you know what, he is embodying everything that Kingpin should be. I thought he was that living comic book character. I thought he nailed it, and he was fun to watch in that role. Yeah. And I understood the comic purists. I do understand the objection. But you know what? I think if you get past the color of the skin and the fact that he wasn't really overtly obese.
He was giant, though.
He was a giant of a man, and I thought totally captured the spirit of the character, and I loved watching him in that.
I'd also say Sin City.
Yeah.
And now I'm concerned. I'm sad that Michael died, but now I was thinking, like, for Sin City 2, who would play his character? And I think Terry Crews. So you might want to suggest that to Terry Crews. He would be an amazing, I think the character's name was Batu or something like that.
Who I may or may not be seeing tomorrow.
And and that's a really large part for a dame to kill, I think it's a dame to die for.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's a very large part of that comic book.
Right.
So that character is. So.
That's always really hard to handle when an actor passes away in the midst of a franchise.
Mm-hmm. Like Harry
That's
Potter,
always like Harry Potter. I was just thinking of Harry Potter because, as much as I hate to say it, I was never happy with the Dumbledore replacement. I was.
Oh really? I was.
No. Never. But although I love Harry Potter, but no, I never was. And I think that's hard. You go in, I mean, especially as beloved as, for whoever takes this on, as beloved as Michael Clarke Duncan really is, that's a lot to overcome.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the one thing they do have going for them, though, is that he wasn't the key central figure in the original film. So I think they can get past it. For me, I loved the whole 9 yards. I think that is a criminally underappreciated comedy. Now, the second one was complete rubbish and garbage, but he played Frankie Figgs in that, you know, a serial or contract killer with Bruce Willis, and the only good movie that the one Friends star Matthew Perry ever did. But I love that movie.
You didn't like Lost in Space?
Matthew Perry was in Lost in Space?
I think he was. Wasn't he?
No, you're thinking of...
or was it? It was the other one.
Matthew.
It was Joey.
Joey LeBlanc.
Oh.
Yes, Joey LeBlanc.
I get those friends all confused.
Not Joey LeBlanc, Matt LeBlanc.
Matt LeBlanc.
Kind of
Joey LeBlanc.
It's like six people, like a giant weird creature with 6 heads. That's how I think of his friends.
It's
a worm creature.
But you know what really shocked?
Yeah.
I mean, when I remember I was sitting actually in a seafood buffet right downstairs here from us when I saw the news on the screen that Michael Clarke Duncan passed away. And after that shock came the other shock. I didn't realize he was 54 years old. Heaven, let me look like this guy when I'm 54 years old.
But he's also, I mean, 54 he looked amazing, obviously, but he was really young. I mean, that's really young.
I mean, he's really young, but I thought, I still put him in his early 40s. I don't know why. In my head, I always had Michael Clarke Duncan in his early 40s.
Yeah.
It's always sad when you hear that somebody passed away, but like Phyllis Diller, you're like, she was 95, it makes sense. You're like, oh, that's a bummer that she's dead, but 95, that's pretty, that's
well done.
Yeah. So,
But yeah,
54
far
is
too early.
really
Far too
horrible.
early.
Also, I really like the whole 9 yards too.
Oh.
I thought it was really funny.
And it introduced me to a woman who became my Hollywood crush for about 3 years, which is Amanda Peet. Who am I kidding? Amanda, if you're watching this, you are still one of my most major Hollywood crushes. I love that woman.
And whenever you can make Hitmen funny, Gross Point Blank.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God.
I love Gross Point Blank.
One of my
Okay,
favorite
let's move on from that and move on to the second topic here. As Roth, you mentioned a little bit earlier, last week it was rumor that Jim Carrey may be in talks to join Kick-Ass 2. Now it appears it is absolute solid fact. Jim Carrey will, of course, play Colonel Stars, as Roth mentioned, the founder of Justice Forever. I love that name.
Yes.
Justice Forever.
Because it sounds a little like a boy band. Would you hope that there are elements to that as
Right.
well in the film?
Well, I've read the comic book that it's based on, Kick-Ass 2, and so the Colonel, if you guys have read the actual comic that he's the character he's going to play, I seriously hope he plays him just like the way the comic is.
But see, that's interesting because I remember I had this debate with somebody last night, a friend of mine over Instant Messenger. You know, one of the best things about the first Kick-Ass movie was Nicolas Cage playing Big Daddy. That's not how anybody read Big Daddy.
Right.
Nicolas Cage, and whenever anybody tells me these days, oh, Nicolas Cage is finished, he's done, you haven't watched Kick-Ass yet.
Right.
He's so unbelievably good in Kick-Ass. But that he brought that Adam West
Yeah.
thing. And
Bad Lieutenant Port of Call. That's
was also
awesome.
fantastic,
Anybody
yes.
doesn't like that, I'll fight you.
and
You heard it here. You've been challenged.
Naked fist fight, hot coals.
Yep.
so, I mean, there's a part of me that goes, okay, well, wait a minute. I want to resist the urge to I mean, because my natural inclination is I want it to see portrayed on screen the way I read it. I did not read Kick-Ass before I saw the first movie. I have read more ever since. But I got to resist that urge. So I'm thinking, you know what? Cage brought something completely different to it, and it absolutely worked. I wonder if they'll give Jim Carrey the same kind of leeway.
What I'm saying though, let me rephrase that. I'm saying I hope of course he's going to bring something to it, as long as he doesn't bring Ace Ventura to it. I don't want it to be like Goofy or the Riddler.
I was just going to say, or the Riddler.
If he ruins it, I mean, it's not
I don't
that
think
he
anybody
ruined
should really
Batman
mention-
franchise. Schumacher ruined. It's like that was a team effort. But I'm just saying, he can bring elements of brand new elements to the Colonel, but just don't make it stupid. That's my only fear.
But Mark Miller actually said in his forums, he brought up Big Daddy, and he said, Nicolas Cage brought so much to that I hadn't foreseen.
Right, the Adam West,
all
that stuff.
So he was actually saying that he was really excited to see what Jim Carrey would sort of bring to the character of the Colonel. But
comedians unleashed without the energy focused by a director or writer. So I'm hoping everyone's like, hey, let's all talk about this and what are you going to bring to it, and not just all right, good, you're on the set, go, everyone have fun, haha. Then Daly's oh, what are we doing? That happens a lot. So
I remember the one interesting thing about Jim Carrey too is when we think of him, we do think of that Ace Ventura persona, the Riddler persona, the Dumb and Dumber. Fireman Bill, the Dumb and Dumber persona, but we forget I can't remember that. I remember the name of the movie, but I can't remember the number.
Eternal
was it
Sunshine.
The number 13, or was it the number?
Number 13.
It was
it's the number 23 that is
the number 23.
famously
Okay.
the conspiratorial
The number
number.
13, the number 23, the numbers suck. The movie was beyond wretchedly horrible and painful to watch. Having said that, Jim Carrey within that horrible, terrible movie showed he can play a darker, edgier side. Now, it was completely misplaced in this horrible mess of a film, but he did play that darker, edgier, kind of despondent side as well. That shows me, okay, he's got range. Now, obviously, he's done dramatic pieces before, and he does have that kind of range as a performer. I absolutely agree with you. I'm thrilled that Jim Carrey is going to be in Kick-Ass 2. I am a little fearful that it's going to be Ace Ventura and the Justice Forever League. So I don't know. We'll see.
You brought up. I keep saying
Eternal
Fireman Bill. Eternal Sunshine.
Which is
Yeah,
one of my
Eternal
favorite
Sunshine,
films
yeah.
he's in.
Exactly. Well, it's one of my favorite films, I think, period.
Yeah, I agree.
But he is excellent in that movie. But I would say this isn't anywhere, in my opinion, near Eternal Sunshine. But even in The Truman Show, he showed some different colors. And I think he can hold back. But you do need, I think, probably a strong director. We'll find out.
Ryan, just out of curiosity, your favorite Jim Carrey movie?
Oh, my God.
I never talked to Ryan, so he's stunned now. I've caught him completely off guard.
If someone held a gun to my head, I'd still have to say, Ace Ventura.
Mine too.
Yeah, hands down. It was such a fresh character, and it came off the heels. He had a couple of years off from In Living Color, and it kind of was reminiscent of that, foolhardy, goofy, nonsensical humor that he was known for. But before that, he'd done a series called something about a duck, the Duck Show or something like that on CBS. I think I could be wrong.
Oh, Duck Soup.
Someone in the Duck Soup or something like that.
The Duck Factory.
Duck Factory, that's the one. Yeah, Canadian show, I think. Anyway, but it was just so like outlandish and bizarre and absolute physical comic genius, which is what he was really known for in his stand-up routine.
His stand-up, a lot. It's amazing how
insane.
people have never seen his stand-up stuff, and his stand-up stuff was great. But speaking of Ace Ventura, terrific. I love this story, and people in the chat board, correct me on the details where I'm wrong here. But basically, the story goes like this: he was about to do Ace Ventura. It hadn't come out yet, and he was in negotiations for Dumb and Dumber before Ace Ventura: Pet Detective come out, and he wanted like $1 million, and the studio didn't want to pay him that much. I think they wanted to give him somewhere around $400,000 or something, and he was wanting $1 million, and they refused to budge. They weren't going to give him $1 million, and because we don't think Ace Ventura: Pet Detective is going to be that big, we don't think your name can carry anything, so they refused to sign the deal until after Ace Ventura came out.
Ha!
They had to
Suck on
sign
it.
him for Dumb and Dumber for $10 million.
And he was worth every dollar. Dumb and
Yeah, he
Dumber is
was.
still my favorite film that he's ever done because
Close second
I could
for
watch
me.
it and just him and Daniels
Jeff
just
Daniels.
cracked me up.
Yeah.
So
And
I
Jeff
hope that the
Daniels
sequel, I
did
want
get
them to do it.
Jeff Daniels did get $500,000. Jim Carrey got $10 million.
$10 million
For that
oh,
film.
ouch.
That's how it rocks.
Lest
though,
we
you know.
forget, Earth Girls Are Easy.
And they could have saved
Gentlemen.
$9 million. They just given him the $1 million he had asked for.
Can I edit my response? I
Yes.
just remembered Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Favorite comedy.
How did you just we've just
Well,
been
I
talking
was thinking
about
in terms
it.
of comedies. You know, like my favorite still Ace Ventura, but like dramatic roles, Eternal Sunshine.
Say
Okay.
Popper's Penguin or Liar Liar.
You know,
It falls into my category of no.
Batman
I
Returns.
stick with Dumb and Dumber,
Batman
Eternal
Forever.
Sunshine.
So, hey, listen, guys, in the chat board, by all means, drop your comments and let us know who what your favorite Jim Carrey film is, and let us know what you think about Jim Carrey joining Kick-Ass, which, by the way, I think I should just mention straight up here. Part of the reason I believe this is great news is because I think the original Kick-Ass movie was unbelievably entertaining.
Kick ass.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was awesome. I loved it.
It was wonderful. You know, in the last couple of years at Comic-Con, there are two feel-wise similar films that got premiered and kind of showed a bunch of stuff at Comic-Con, built a buzz, and they came out. One was Kick-Ass, one was Sucker Punch. That kind of had that same kind of viral starting feeling at Comic-Con to get people talking about it and buzzing about it, and everybody's excited. Kick-Ass comes out, delivered in spades. Sucker Punch came in,
No.
punched
You
you in
got
the groin.
Sucker Punch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you really did get some.
Because that trailer for Sucker Punch, I was like, man, this is going to be just fantastic.
Looked
And then
awesome.
You're like, that's one of the only films I almost walked out on.
And you didn't know it
in
was
the
going to
recent
be the
years.
longest 1980s video that you had ever seen.
I love those sequences, though. I still
I do
say cut
too.
those sequences
Sure.
together
Cut
and
them out.
release that. No, just release those weird like dream
Segments.
sequences
Yeah.
and make that like a cool 30-minute freakout film or something, or just that would have been an amazing film. All the institution
All of the college
stuff.
kids.
Oh, that was horrible.
And the girls in it were wonderful. I mean,
Yeah,
they were
amazing
great. Just,
actors.
you had to put the movie on mute. Let's move on to this.
I just say revisit the Cable Guy. That's all. I'll say.
Oh, yeah, Cable
it's actually
Guy.
worth. It's actually really. Funny
We could
and
do a
disturbing.
whole episode just on looking back at Jim
Yeah,
Carrey.
for real.
Carrey, yeah. 'Cause
But
he-
anyway, let's move on to get another thing. I mentioned a little bit earlier that the new Jeremy Renner. I completely forgot this film was coming, but I have been excited for it. Hansel and Gretel: Witch Hunters is coming out, kind of playing off the title of the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
Yes.
Yeah, we all love that.
Wow. So I got to. I am legit.
Benjamin Franklin, zombie killer.
Did you see that Asylum? Immediately, just before Abraham
yeah,
Lincoln
the-
Vampire
yeah.
came out with Abraham Lincoln Zombie Slayer.
Yeah.
Did they really?
They did,
God
yes.
bless
Why don't they
them.
do the founding fathers and just have them fight
Exactly.
like Satan?
The original X-Men.
Yeah.
Because according to many people, that's exactly what happened.
Right.
So Hansel and Gretel. I'm excited for this. I love the play on old classic stories. I'm a big fan of Jeremy Renner, becoming a bigger and bigger fan.
I just
of
want
his
Jeremy
all the
Renner to
time.
be in more films. I
More
feel like he
action
hasn't
films.
taken over enough
This
franchises.
is
No,
gonna be
no,
like
no.
the fourth film he's got, like in the last calendar year.
Yeah.
franchise film too.
But that's the thing is he's really just like, I get all the franchises.
Yeah, I'm taking Mission Impossible
most
franchise. I'm
amazing
taking the Bourne franchise.
Exactly.
I'm taking the the
Now
Avengers
Hawkeye.
franchise.
And the most amazing thing about him too is that, and I really like Jeremy Renner.
he's
Don't get me
awesome.
wrong, he's awesome. But he's like, I don't know about Hollywood. I don't want to be bothered with all of these big Hollywood studio movies. And you're like, you don't? Because
Giant checks
seems
cashed,
like you
yeah.
do.
guys, I'm a serious
I'm
actor.
really like, I really
$5
like
million?
this.
No, all right, I'll be that guy. And I'll actually be really good at that guy, dude, because I'm an actor. He is. He's a real actor. So it's
How
like,
good was we mentioned Ben Affleck's film earlier? How good was he in The Town?
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Like
amazing.
he was so
I
good.
love
in
The
that.
Town.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck. I can't wait to see
Everyone was-
Argo.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
And did you know
Well,
that
we'll
Jack
get-
Kirby is actually involved in Argo? He
We'll
was
get
the
to
guy-
Argo
I'm
in a
sorry, I'm
second, though.
jumping-
That's
jumping
coming up. That's coming
ahead.
up. But let's get back to Hansel and Gretel here for a second. Did you guys have a chance to watch the trailer?
Yeah.
Okay, John, let's start with you. Your impressions of the Hansel and Gretel trailer.
I liked it. I'm actually working on a Hansel and Gretel adaptation right now that's animated.
Oh,
so
yeah,
it
with
was
the Grimm.
Yeah, so it was really fun to see this trailer, and I, heard about it because they pushed it back for a whole year of, release. So when I finally saw this trailer, I was actually really excited to see it, and I watched it. I really enjoyed it, and then I read all the little like a lot of people were like, I don't like it or this or that, which whatever. I thought it was funny. It's like it's a big budget action film with Hansel and Gretel. I mean, whoever thought you'd see that anyway? Like, if you were like a kid, Hansel and Gretel, and then now they're like guns, shooting, witches, zombies, it's like Evil Dead. I'm like, I'll see that. So I can't wait to see it.
Roth?
I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, I like the concept a lot because, to your point, like of all of the fairy tale creatures that you could have, like it's awesome that it's Hansel and Gretel
Yeah.
because it's just so like, and there's the gingerbread house.
Right.
We're not even going to shy away from
Yeah.
it.
They
It's
grew up and now
totally
they
a
kill
gingerbread
monsters.
house,
It's awesome.
and now they have weaponry, people. And I think that it's cool when you sort of mix the tone and it's steampunk. It's not exactly, this isn't steampunk, obviously, but steampunk is the kind of thing that mixes those elements of fantasy and technology and sci-fi and so forth. And it plays with time periods. And obviously the tone of this, Jeremy Renner, it couldn't be more modern sounding.
Right. It's almost like be cool,
You
guys.
know
like,
what I mean?
I'm sure
Like-
there's like a lot of modern lingo in there.
Me and my sister, we got a history. Check it out. So I think there's elements of that could be really fun and funny. I also love Derek Mears, who's
I was
in
about
the
to say
movie.
shout out to Derek Mears.
Yeah.
He's a pal of mine too.
Yeah.
So
and
he plays a giant troll or something.
Yeah,
like
he
that.
does. He plays a giant troll, and I love Derek, so that's cool. I mean,
Derek's
really,
okay.
Derek's
now that you said
alright.
that he's your
We
friend,
should tweet him
now
and-
I'm his enemy.
We should
Let's
tweet
fight
him and let him
Mears.
know we're shouting him out right
Seriously.
now. But Derek's
Totally
awesome.
ripping on you, Mears.
He really is. If you guys are a fan of Community, you probably know who Derek is. If you're a fan of the Friday the 13th reboot, anyway, he's great. So I'm excited to see that. I do wonder how it's all going to play out ultimately, if the tone is really going to work and sustain itself for an hour and a half or however long it is. But I hope that it does.
I think it'll be better than Brothers Grimm.
I think we can all agree on that.
Well, aim for the stars.
Yeah.
Here's my thing. I did have fun with the trailer too. I did, and I've been looking forward to this film. Here's something I tweeted out. I got a bit of an uneasy feeling because when I'm watching the trailer, I thought it was kind of fun. It is kind of what I was expecting, but in the pit of my stomach, I had a bit of a Van Helsing feel to it.
That was my worry.
The
honest,
trailer
that
has
was
a
my
little
worry.
bit of a Van Helsing feel. Now that doesn't mean the movie's not going to be amazing.
I'll argue that.
Sure.
Because I saw the trailer Van Helsing and I did not like Van Helsing. And this trailer I saw, it has elements to it, but like just by watching how it was put together, the different shots, it just looks like this is more cohesive. There's more of a story that's here than the Van Helsing story.
I remain
just by
excited.
Just watching the trailer.
I remain excited. It's just that it just planted that little seed of
I could be
fear.
completely wrong, and next year you guys be like, "See, Schnepp, you idiot!" I was like, "Oh, you're right.
Totally
it was Van
Van
Helsing,
Helsing
too."
Suck it on it. Yeah, that I thought the same thing. I go, okay, this could be really, really fun, or if it goes the wrong way, it could be Van Helsing.
All right, let's
Though
move
Van
on.
Helsing did have that cool opening sequence where he fought Hyde.
Yeah, it did.
That was
Yes.
pretty cool.
Yes,
And that was it.
It was. It was very cool.
And then it was Van Helsing
Yeah,
for the rest of the movie.
All right, let's move on to this.
Cool Frankenstein design.
I'm going to make a statement right now, and then I'll throw it open to you guys to wisely agree
Statements from John.
or unwisely
Just gonna throw it out
disagree.
there. Take it or leave it.
Statements from
Three,
John.
3 years from now, mark this down. 3 years from now, Ben Affleck will be a more respected name in Hollywood than Matt Damon's name.
Matt Damon.
Dun, 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 dun.
Now, once again, going back to the story that we read to you a little bit earlier, Ben Affleck's new film Argo, which he stars in and directed, just opened at the Telluride Film Festival to rave reviews. And a lot of these film experts are saying early frontrunner for an Oscar nomination. finally, which I think he deserved one before for either of his films, either The Town or especially Gone Baby Gone. I thought that he has not only directed, but also, aside from Gone Baby Gone, acted in brilliantly. Word on his performance has been incredibly solid right now. There's still this lingering thing about Ben Affleck's name, who I have always respected a great deal. Yes, he's made some terrible choices in some of the projects he's been in. I still say to this day that Ben Affleck in Changing Lanes is the single best performance between him and Matt Damon in any movie. A lot of people disagree,
You're
and I understand.
Wrong.
But there's still this feel that when Ben Affleck's in it, I remember when the rumor came up. Well, it wasn't a rumor. It turned out to be pretty true that Warner Brothers was going after Ben Affleck to direct Justice League. A lot of people instantly jumped up. Oh, what? No, this is terrible. This is whatever. Get on your knees and beg forgiveness because Affleck is the man. He is just showing it over and over and over again. Every film he's directed now has been knocked out of the park. Now, I haven't seen Argo yet, but a lot of people I know and respect who are watching it down at the film festival are raving about it. Gone Baby Gone was awesome. The Town was awesome. He's the man, and you should beg to whatever heavenly entities you worship that at some point Ben Affleck will have a change of heart and come back with you groveling and begging him to take over Justice League. I'm getting a little carried away at this point.
Right.
This is the representative of the United Team reason.
I think you want Jon Affleck to
How do you
direct
really
Justice
feel
League,
about
guys.
this?
That's what I'm getting from it
I'm
over here.
getting the sense that you'd like to see the Justice League thing happen, even though Ben Affleck
you know
has
what?
said
I'm
it will
sensing
not.
some ambiguity here. With your opinion.
Here, I'll say this.
You're
Get off the
flip-flopping.
fence about this.
I think Ben Affleck's an incredible director. I can't wait to see Argo. I don't want him to direct Justice League.
I remember we had this conversation before,
And
right?
it's like I just don't think he's even in the same mind space to do it.
Yeah.
Like even if he had an amazing script, let him do other cool original films. Let someone else take Justice League and bring it to a different level. I just don't. Why? It's not waste Ben Affleck's time to direct
Right.
Justice League. There's other people who are way more capable, is what I'm trying to say, and would be into it. He was already like, I don't really want to do it, but I'll take the meeting. Don't do it. Do us a favor. Let someone else do a really cool Justice League. You do another kick-ass movie like Argo and do another. Like, he's doing great films right now, original films, not sequels. I don't want to see him do anything that has anything to related with a brand. No corporate money stuff.
But
Like,
this
just
is
do a
the-
cool movie.
I see
Do
what-
cool
I s-
movies.
I see what
he's
you're
doing
saying.
70s style movies
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
they're
Yes.
awesome.
I want more of that.
They're awesome, and it's great to see those 70s styles type of movies emerging. I'm hoping that we're swinging more in that direction in general terms.
Only
once
way to
again,
do that is with powerful
Yeah.
directors like that or other actors taking risks.
Yeah, and
That's the only way we'll get it.
every 10 years or so that sort of happens, and I'm hoping we're heading into that era cinematically a little bit. But I will say this: I think there have been cases of people that you thought, oh, Chris Nolan, let's look at his films, let's look at Memento, let's look at Insomnia. This isn't the guy to do a big Batman movie, but he did, and he did a great job. And he
or
sort
the
of
guy who did Usual
brought a
Suspects
new-
doing X-Men?
right? They bring something new to it, because they are coming from that perspective, because they are not coming from a perspective that is already ingrained in the studio system and the studio mindset. I think that you kind of need that sometimes in order to freshen up what could otherwise be a really sort of paint by numbers endeavor.
I definitely agree. I agree with all those films and those directors' choices. And I remember when I heard Chris Nolan was taking over Batman, I was excited because I was like, finally, someone who's
Yeah.
going to take it seriously.
Yeah.
See, so there's a big difference though. But with someone like Ben Affleck, it's like let him grow as a filmmaker.
Yeah,
he
I will-
doesn't need
yes.
to take on maybe when he's like 50,
Right.
then do a superhero
He's
movie.
too
He doesn't
new.
need
He's
that.
too new of a filmmaker, and it's too vulnerable of a position
And
because
it's
he's
too
already
exciting.
famous.
Yeah, it's like let him take risks. Like Argo seems like it's going to be a really amazing film. And I mentioned earlier, Jack Kirby actually based on the real original story that Argo's based on.
Yeah.
They hired Jack Kirby to design this fake movie, and it was called Seventh Light. And that's where he got a lot of his New Gods ideas.
Yeah.
So it was like a really weird little story there.
Ryan, we got something on the chat
Yeah,
board there?
just totally cool in the chat boards, which just kind of echoed what Jon Schnepp was saying there. Is like, but none of Ben Affleck's previous directorial films were comic book or superhero movies. But that goes back to,
But once again, neither was Bryan
Yeah,
Singer's.
right, exactly.
Neither was Christopher Nolan's.
Exactly.
And I think for someone like me, I cannot
Might I
disagree.
mention Bryan Singer's Superman?
I cannot disagree
No.
with anything you've said
mistake, yeah.
about, Affleck's already doing these amazingly cool projects, these amazingly cool films, and we want to see him continue that. I can't disagree with any of that. That being said, there is that little place in my dying heart that loves these DC characters so much. And when I look at the list, which we talked about a few weeks ago, of a lot of the people who are being considered to direct a Justice League, I cannot help but revert to this naive, optimistic, gaze-eyed little child to say, Ben Affleck, please, please, please reconsider.
I say Brad
What
Bird.
little
Brad
John?
Bird. Remember
And
the
Brad Bird
audience?
was another great name. Yeah,
Brad
Bird.
Bird.
But
Brad
let's get
Bird would
back-
be great if you wanted to make it sort of comedic.
But let's
also.
get back to the original question. The original question is, I made a statement that basically, I put out a blank statement that 3 years from now, Ben Affleck will actually be, despite how much chaff he gets when his name is brought up today, that 3 years from now, Ben Affleck will actually be the more respected name in Hollywood between him and Matt Damon. Thoughts?
I don't think that it has to be a war between Matt Damon and
neither
Ben
do I.
Affleck.
No, not at all.
But I think that they're both probably going to be respected in different ways. I think that Ben Affleck has come leaps and bounds in the last few years, and definitely his directorial endeavors have helped him a lot in terms of gaining people's respect. As you can see, he's an incredible director. He's so talented, and it was a surprise. I didn't think that he was going to be a good director. I didn't think he had the emotional maturity or the depth, frankly.
Right.
But he does. And it's also given him roles to play as an actor that let us see new shades to that as well. But I think that Matt Damon's also still incredible. He has a lot of work ahead of him, and we don't know what he's going to do.
Well, you know what's weird is, I can't really even, it's apples and oranges with those guys. They started out, as some giant Hershey's chocolate bar, and then it broke off, and somebody fell into the Reese's cups, and somebody then got caramel. You know what I mean? They're like, Affleck is a director now, and more so a director than an actor,
right?
In my mind. Just from these last two films, I think of more as like, I can't wait to see ARGO just based on those other two films.
Yeah.
Damon, I love his acting. So I can't wait to see what he does
in
with Neil
Elysium.
Blomkamp. Yeah. So, that's what I mean. He's like, at least Matt Damon is also still taking really cool roles as an actor and challenging himself as an actor.
Yeah.
So I think in 3 years, they'll still be on this other opposite trajectory. So to compare them might be uncomparable. Like, you'd be like, oh, well, Damon is like doing these other films that are challenging, and Affleck is directing these other films. Maybe Affleck will hire Damon to be in his next, his fourth movie.
Listen
as
up,
an actor or
Ben.
something.
That's
you guys get
that-
back
why
together?
don't you listen up, Ben? Why don't you write something together? Ben Affleck can direct it, and Matt Damon can star. Because I
something
will
like
say this.
Goodyear Hunting.
Yeah,
Fat
Goodyear Hunting.
Fat Kids Hunting.
Applesauce.
Yo.
I can't say that. I cannot say that. However, I will say this. I think that I think this to your point, Ben Affleck is a better director than he is an actor, and that Matt Damon is a better actor than Ben Affleck is. Even though I've liked his performances a lot in these last few movies, and I think he's a really good actor, don't get me wrong, I think that Matt Damon ultimately will stretch himself further as an actor, but I could be proven wrong.
I like both of them in those Kevin Smith movies. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Yes.
They should just,
Which
like,
I
do a
was
double
just
team tag
I
team
just
thing with
failed
Smith.
to quote was Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Let's move on to this. Look, I want to be very, very careful here because I don't like to pile on or be too negative about films that are currently in or in theaters. Obviously, there's a bit of a conflict of interest as I work with AMC theaters. So I'd like to be very, very careful. But I would be remiss if I didn't at least mention this in our discussion. A all-time box office record has just been hit. And it's not a good one. And I have a bit of a connection to this film, and I'll explain that in a second. The new film, The Oogie Loves, I believe the tagline to The Oogie Loves and the Big Balloon Adventure, I believe is the name of it, opened this past weekend in over 2,100 theaters. Now that is a significant wide release. In its opening weekend, The Oogie Loves made $443,000. I might be off by a couple of $1,000s there, but roughly $443,000. That, for a wide release film, has set a new record for all-time low. It made on average $214 per screen. At 8 screenings roughly per weekend, given 2 screenings on a Friday, 3 screenings on Saturday, 3 screenings on Sunday. On average, Oogie Loves made $26 per screening, which means on an average theater on its opening weekend, 3 people were in the theater.
2.5.
Or 2.5, depending on how you want to go at it. Well, average ticket price across the nation is $8, so roughly, we'll say 3. We'll give the benefit of the doubt and say 3. I have a connection to this film, and here I was explaining it to John a little bit earlier. Ken Weiselman, the guy behind Oogie Loves, is also the guy, the brains behind Teletubbies, and the guy who brought Thomas the Train Engine to North America. The guy knows kids' entertainment. He does. I mean, you got to give him that. Now, my connection to Ken Weiselman was I had a little film that I did, and one of my producers / my entertainment lawyer was Ken Weiselman's producer / entertainment lawyer, and they were making this film Oogie Loves that they had just wrapped. And Ken and my lawyer, they invited me. We had met a number of times. They invited me. We had talked about doing some stuff together in the future. And Ken invited me out to the Oogie Loves wrap party. This is 3 years ago. This children's film, the Oogie Loves wrap party, which was held at the Playboy Suite at the Palms Hotel in Las Vegas.
Perfect.
Which does seem like an odd location for a kids' movie party. But I was very glad to be there. First time I had ever been to the Playboy Suite. And I got to tell you, I'll be right up front here. When Ken told me about the movie and pitched it like this, he said, it's like the Rocky Horror Picture Show for children. Because what we want to do...
And someone greenlit
Yes.
that.
Well, no, I think it's a great idea. He said, in principle, it's a great idea. Because he said, the idea is we want kids in theater to stand up out of their seats and to jump around and dance and stuff like that.
All
and be,
parents want that to be happening.
Exactly.
Yeah,
but
to
except
be
that
engaging
wasn't
with-
the goal with Rocky Horror. That
But, no, I
happened
know, but-
organically.
It's my own personal.
But the thing is,
version
we
of hell.
want to get kids involved and physically involved, and make it
Buy them a Kinect and have them jump around in the Xbox world.
But they said we want the film going experience to become a participatory experience for kids. And I got to tell you, I thought that sounded like a really, really good idea. Now, then I didn't hear anything about the film for years and years and years. I stopped having connection with Ken because we get different lawyers now. But then it just kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, wait a minute, Oogie Loves is back? Had no marketing. But here's a question. Why would a film... Like, none of us have seen the film. So we can't say good or bad things about the movie in and of
I can
itself.
say a lot of stuff about the film.
Please.
But the question is, no matter how good or how bad some movies have come out, they don't open to $400 and something thousand. Why did this? Was like for me, it's just a matter of marketing. You mentioned you didn't even know it opened.
I didn't know it until I saw on the I saw like just checking out like some article online where it's like biggest box office bomb besides Delgo. This beat Delgo. You know, that 3D weird film that came out a couple of years ago. And that's the first I saw it, and I saw a little weird like slug creature that was on a bike or something. I was like, oh, what is it? So I instantly thought it must be Teletubbies or some weird thing like that, and I guess it is just by looking at it. But I'd never seen an ad, a poster, or anything for it. And I'm not even like, usually I gloss over like kids stuff. So I'm like, but I didn't see any of that stuff.
It's
like,
hard
no
to
ad
forget.
anywhere.
It's hard to forget the images of the Oogie Loves.
So here's
They
my
stand out.
suggestion for Oogie Loves.
Oogie Loves.
Pull the film right now. Hire like a death metal band like Guar, or like get Ken Finkelman from
You can hire
Canada.
my friends from Bad Acid Trip.
Yeah, just get a guy who's really fun, like Ken Finkelman, Canadian writer. Just have him rewrite the entire thing, score it with death metal, re-release it just do it in 2 weeks, and just try to don't spend that much money. Re-release it, call it Oogie Loves Murder Squad, and then just add some random heads exploding. And I think
this is actually, I'm not even kidding, a really good idea.
Because you would get more than $400,000.
You would. This is actually a really good
pull it
idea.
and
I'm
re-put it
going to
back
pitch
out.
Bad Acid Trip again, because that's a
All
couple
right.
of
First of all, I want to remind everybody that starting tomorrow, Raiders of the Lost Ark will be back in IMAX, and we have a very special giveaway going on. The first 500 people that attend the Raiders of the Lost Ark in IMAX, once again opening in theaters tomorrow, will receive this. Ryan, do you got the image up there?
It's up.
This limited edition special Raiders of the Lost Ark collectible poster, which we're really excited about that. So make sure, if you're going to go see it, be one of the first 500 people in your local theater, your local IMAX, to go and catch Raiders of the Lost Ark in IMAX. On top of that, adding to the Indiana Jones goodness, AMC Theaters is really proud to present this exclusive Indiana Jones, not trilogy, marathon.
Yes, trilogy.
Marathon on September 15th. For the price of one ticket, which I believe is $25, you get all four Indiana Jones films. You get, I believe, a collectible lanyard and one or two other things. You can get more information by going to www.amctheaters.com/Indiana Jones.
Wait, are you saying they made a fourth Indiana Jones movie?
They did.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So don't forget, once again, that's September 15th for the Indiana Jones Marathon. And for more information on ticket pricing and getting your tickets in the theaters where it's being located is once again at amctheaters.com/Indiana Jones. Go and check that out. For now, it's time for us to go to our weekly mailbag segment. Every week we take questions from you guys, our audience. You can send us your questions anytime by emailing us at fycpodcastshow@gmail.com. Although, just so you know, you can email that this week, but you can also email us at amcmovietalk@gmail.com as well. Email us at either. We'll get your questions. Then Ryan pulls out a couple and asks them here on air, and we've got a few that we're going to get to right now. Ryan, what do we got?
All right, coming from Brendan R. We got a question. And it is... First of all, completely love the show. Makes me feel like I'm listening in on some friends talking movies. Love it. Very deep question here that will challenge your film philosophy to its core. What is your favorite snack to get when you go into a movie? Mine is soft pretzels. Discuss. Brendan R. Thanks, Brendan.
Deep question. I must admit, I don't know why. I'm not a guy who eats popcorn at home. I don't make popcorn. But when I walk into a movie theater, it's a Pavlovian response for me. I instantly walk in the door, my mouth starts watering, I gotta have popcorn with dangerous, unhealthy amounts of butter poured onto it to the point that it is likened unto a soup. But yeah, when I go to the theater, I gotta have popcorn. That's just me.
Nachos are my thing.
Really? I've never been big on movie
nachos
theater
and
nachos, really?
Well, I used to get popcorn, and then once they started offering nachos, like, I'm going to try this nacho thing. And then I was like, man, this is awesome. Like that gross, weird cheese sauce, and then nachos. And iced tea. Or that if I go to the some other theater, sometimes I get the caramel corn.
Oh, yeah.
So.
What about you, Roth?
I'm also a soft pretzel person. I just love them. Lots of mustard. Delicious. Reminds me of home in New York.
All right, what else we got?
All right, next up from Daniel, we have... Hey guys, love the show. Agree or disagree? When it comes to a superhero comic book film, a Batman or a Superman film, not necessarily the upcoming or recent ones, would be the only subjects that would have any chance of winning Best Picture at the Oscars. I'm inclined to agree. While I think the superhero genre will forever be snubbed, if a great enough film based on either of these two were to come along, I think it would be able to break that barrier. Daniel M.
Well, okay. First of all, the question has presupposes that there are comic book movies that have in the past been snubbed. And I don't think they have. At least not if we're talking about Best Picture Oscars.
I don't think so.
The big, as much as I love Bryan Singer's original X-Men, and I love that film, and X-Men 2 even more, I never thought it deserved, maybe if those were years where they had 10 nominees, maybe. But I never felt that it deserved a Best Picture nominee. As much as I like The Dark Knight, I love that film. Like, you got to understand, I'm not one of these film critics who just, people just 10 for any movie they remotely like. For me, if I really like a movie, I give it like a 7.5. That to me is a movie I really like. I gave The Dark Knight an 8.5. That's big for me. I love that movie a lot. But it didn't deserve to be nominated for Best Picture that year. A year in which it was only 5 nominees again. Again, if it was one of those years where they had 10 nominees, absolutely it should have been on that list. But so I'm kind of coming from a point where I don't think a comic book film ever has been snubbed, because I don't think there's been a definitive comic book film that definitively deserved a Best Picture nomination. That being said, I think the whole notion that genre films get snubbed by the Academy Awards was kind of blown out of the water by the fact that The Lord of the Rings, all 3 films were nominated for Best Picture. Return of the King 1 set a record with 11 Oscar wins. So I think we are in a period of time right now where I think the Academy is willing to look at these films. Look, as of right now, I believe the Avengers will get a Best Picture nomination. I just really think it's going to happen. We'll see what happens. Maybe by the end of the year, I won't think it deserves it once all these other films come out. But I don't know. That's my kind of take on it. What do you guys think?
Most of these superhero films are popular culture films. So in a certain sense, like when an Oscar nomination comes out, it's not as homogenized as like across the board. A lot of superhero films are made so that like as many people can come and see them, and there's not as many disparities, so to speak. If you get what I'm saying, I'm not saying any superhero films shouldn't be nominated. I'm really glad Heath Ledger won an Oscar for his role in Dark Knight.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's a lot of amazing acting, special effects, and story. And granted, certain certain films that you're like, wow, that was my favorite film of this year that I've seen so far. Like we talked about Avengers was my favorite film I've seen this year, but that's just because it was like the most geekiest wish fulfillment film that I've ever experienced, and it was a good film.
Yep.
On top of that, it delivered on all these different levels, but that's just personally for me. Whether that's going to rock some 80-year-old Oscar person like chalking down stuff when it's either that or Les Miserables, I can't even say it. There's a whole bunch of different films that probably are going to be on that list that will chop out a bunch of superhero films.
Yeah.
Whether or not they deserve it, that's not even really it's a kind of a moot question. I appreciate the question, but it's not an answer. It's like, and whether it would be Superman or Batman, it could be some really crazy off the wall thing that somebody makes a comment on all of superhero society or whatever, and then it becomes an art house film, and then people nominate
Ant-Man
it.
2015.
Ant-Man will be nominated and win the Oscar.
I think the Academy is, and I hate to keep touting Chris Tapley, but let's. I think if you sort of trace, and I had the opportunity last year to write for him, and I had the opportunity to really see unfold before me how the awards system works and how sort of the season unfolds. And the truth is, it's pretty. It's a pretty set system to some degree, and it's very old. And the people that are behind it, I mean, listen, this year the honorary Academy Award people came out, I think it was yesterday, zero women considered once again, and that's fine. The men are all great, but I'm saying this is a system that is sort of set in its ways, and there is a certain kind of film, and there is a certain formula to which films are going to get nominated for Best Picture. That has changed a little bit now that the spectrum has been opened a little bit from just 5 potentials, but it depends on the year. And this year, we are going to have The Master, we're going to have ARGO, we're going to have maybe something like Looper, although, that's a genre film. I think it's going to be really tough to get what the Academy considers really big popcorn films into that mix. The other thing, too, is that part of the purpose of the Academy Awards is to get people interested and back into theaters to see films that they maybe haven't seen. That's not the case with the Avengers. Almost everybody has already seen that
Here's
film.
another thing I think with the Academy is a lot of the nominees are all things that come out towards the end of the year because people just forget about all the movies that came out at the beginning of the year. I think
like
it's
The
a
Grey.
lopsided... it's one of many different awards shows that are out now, and it's a very small amount of people who are making these judgments.
That are
so
making the decision.
I think it's like Oscars are just one of many other kinds of awards that you should consider, but like go see the film and make your own decision. I think Oscars are just sort of like, here's a little icing on the cake, by the people who are in the industry.
Right, but
they're
I think
basically rewarding other industry people. I don't think the common person should even really care that much about an Oscar, to be honest with you.
I think they're fun, but I will say that in terms of genre, another genre that people have that I've talked a lot about that gets a lot overlooked a lot of times in the Academy Awards is comedy. And usually what happens in genre films, whether it's comedy or whether it's a superhero film or sci-fi, is that the actor will get acknowledged.
Right.
And so if you look at like A Fish Called Wanda,
Right.
who got an Academy, that movie is fabulous movie. It stands the test of time. Thank you.
Can't really say the whole
But it was a supporting actor that got an Academy Award. It wasn't the film. Okay.
All right, what do we got next?
All right, next question comes from Julian. And Julian asks, hello there, wonderful panelists. What are your thoughts on the progression of film into digital 3D and possibly 48 to 60 frames per second with The Hobbit? What school of thought do you guys subscribe to? The Peter Jackson, James Cameron attitude of embracing advancements in technology?
Yes.
Or sticking with tradition like the Christopher Nolan, Neil Blomkamp? Great job on the podcast. I look forward to hearing you guys talk so in depth about movies. Julian.
I think when you get into discussions about technology in film, I don't like new technology for the sake of new technology. I mean, I love the advancements in digital film. Like, for instance, at the we are located here at the AMC Burbank 16. It is a completely digital theater. The way that film is now distributed to the theater, stuff like that. These types of technological advancements are amazing, and they do so much for the industry. And I love the idea of new technology to see what they can do. But just because I know Roth will disagree with me on this, just because something is technically possible doesn't make it necessarily the right application of that technology. That doesn't mean we don't keep advancing in technology and using it. I'm a big proponent of digital filmmaking. I think all films should be burned. That's just my kind of feel to it. But I know a lot of people who are much, much smarter than me will disagree with me about that. For instance, me personally, I mean, I'm not a fan of 3D. And having seen the Hobbit footage that they showed in 48 frames, it did not feel right to me. But that's just me. That doesn't mean I'm not for digital advancement and technology advancement. She said, okay, yeah, let's move ahead. I'm not a big fan of this particular application, nor of this application. That doesn't mean I don't want to see still advancement. So I would tend to fall into the James Cameron, Peter Jackson camp myself personally.
Yeah, I think that's a complicated kind of question, because I think that all of these are tools, and I actually completely agree with you that different tools are appropriate for different stories. That the way that the 3D and the motion capture technology was used in Avatar, whatever you think about the film, and I don't want to get into all of that, in terms of visually, that was not only appropriate, but the film shouldn't have been made before he could do it that way. I mean, absolutely not. Should not have been told before he could do it that way. And so I am a believer in the technology. I have a crush on the technology. I am fascinated by the advancements that can be made. At the same time, I love old 70s films. I love the look of them. I love the feel of them. And I think if you are Christopher Nolan and you can shoot IMAX, awesome, but that's incredibly cost prohibitive for the lion's share of filmmakers, even big filmmakers, much less independent filmmakers. And the thing is, with the advance of the digital technology, is that it's much more cost effective for an independent filmmaker to distribute their film, because it costs about $10,000 per reel for them to try to distribute their film on film. It just doesn't make any sense anymore. As much as I happen to, and I went to film school and I cut film. I had it hanging around my
hated
walls.
that.
I loved it so much.
my magnetic sound strip.
I wanted to date it.
Horrible.
And bear its children.
Here,
That's how much I love film.
cut.
Give me a splicer.
No.
Give me a splicer any day.
Digital.
No. I loved film. However, I also
Cost too much money. I was like,
I
I could have made this entire film, but I blew it on one roll of film.
Kodak gave me a pretty huge grant, but whatever. The point is, fancy.
I didn't have any of these grants. I had to actually buy the film.
But the point is, as much as I want to make out with film strips, and I do because I love them, I also love the technology. And I think that what James Cameron, and I haven't seen the 48 frames per second, but I want to see it projected the way it's meant to be projected, because I think that what they're trying to do with the combination of the 48 or 60, I think it's 60.
60 is how our eyes
60,
see.
yeah.
And 60 and the 3D is to simply correct something that was... It was not accidental, but by default, 24. It was just not possible to capture the world the way we see it. But now it is, and there are going to be times that that's not appropriate. But there are going to be plenty of times that an immersive experience.
Okay,
like that
I need to rush
makes
us
sense.
along here. We got to keep
All right.
moving here.
So my opinion on that is, I think 3D films should be made if they're going to be seen in 3D. I don't like seeing a 3D film and then there's nothing special about it. We just made it to juice the box office. That's how a lot of 3D films are, unfortunately. They do the conversion or this or that just to get that extra $3. I don't agree with that. If you actually shoot it true 3D with the intention of making a 3D thing, then it also has the back and forth, though. If you see Beowulf in 2D, the animated Beowulf, I was blown away when I saw that in 3D. It was like jaw-dropping. The 3D was amazing. But then I watched it again at home, not in 3D, and it was lacking. And I think it's because it was composed to be 3D.
Wow, I got to disagree with you on that. I love that movie.
No, I'm not saying I didn't like
2D, right.
seeing it 2D, but I remember loving it when I saw it in 3D, and then I saw those same shots that they did not have the same impact for me because they were not in 3D.
Oddly enough, one of my favorite 3D viewing experiences was of a film that was converted. It was that Paul Bettany film Priest. Now, great, they took over a full calendar year to do the conversion, but I remember that was some. I mean, not Avatar level, but it was some of the best 3D I had ever seen.
I saw it in 2D. I saw it in 2D and I hated it.
Yeah.
Priest.
Right.
But Prometheus, I saw here in IMAX 3D, and it was incredible.
Yeah.
One of the best 3D films I've ever seen, because I think what they did is they shot it knowing it was 3D and used scope and use setup shots. It's an amazing film,
shot it
regardless of whether you
appropriately.
think of how the writing or the story. It's an incredibly shot film and beautiful to look at. Every shot is composed,
Yeah.
and if you see it in 3D, you'll be blown away just by being inside this world.
Right.
It's like being inside of a painting.
Speedily, I'll just say the 24 frames versus 48 frames versus 60 frames. Once again, that's technology. Once theaters are able to get that hard drive space to be able to, most theaters now that are digital can show 48 frames per second. It's just a switch. So it's like 60 is a little harder to upgrade to, but 48 frames, I haven't seen any of the test footage yet.
No, nobody has.
I'm assuming it's going to look pretty cool when it's done. I trust Peter Jackson and I trust James Cameron. They're at the forefront of pushing new technology. It's not like they're pushing it because they're like some crackpots who are like, I want to make myself sound right. I think they actually truly believe in this and have a lot of other people who believe in it with them, and they're pushing this technology for all of general cinema.
All right.
So
Well,
I agree with them.
we got to jump. We're running out of time
Yeah.
here, so let's just jump right into the. I know where there was more email, Ryan, but let's just jump right into the chat board.
All right,
Take a couple from the chat board.
Sure, chat board. There's actually one question here from Jai CSC. I've watched FYC as FYC for a long time. I don't take change well, especially name changes. I think that's a request. I don't know what to tell them.
I think, okay, no, I get it. I mean, because for people who don't know, I've been doing, actually with Dennis and Roth, we were doing a podcast called For Your Consideration for a very long time. And when we decided to start one up at AMC, we just decided, you know what, we got a lot of people who are subscribers to our show that have been asking still after like 8 months being dark, still asking for more shows. So I thought, well, you know what, let's just call the new show For Your Consideration. We'll go on the old iTunes feed so those people who have been following us can continue to follow us. But I mean, the argument has been made, and it's a good argument that, you know, AMC Movie Talk is more descriptive, it's more pragmatic about what this is. And if we're going to change the name, we probably should change it now early instead of when we're a year into it. So trust me, I know I'm very attached to the name For Your Consideration as well, but I think AMC Movie Talk works as well and is more descriptive and more pragmatic.
Right, next question comes from Senor Nerd. It means Mr. Nerd, for those of you who don't habla Espanol.
Thank you for the
Did you say
translation.
senior nerd?
Senior Nerd. Yes, I would be the junior nerd. You'd be the junior nerd.
Right.
He's the senior nerd. With Jeremy Renner's current rise to stardom, do you believe he'll be in Avengers 2 as Hawkeye, considering he wasn't, I think, terribly impressed with the application of the character in the script?
Oh, no doubt. I
so
don't know
too.
where that's coming from, because I think
He has to be.
one of the
They want
beautiful
him.
things
I think
about
he's
Avengers.
He's contractually
Soul
Well, he is,
binding
yeah, he's
beyond
contractually
that.
obligated,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think one of the beautiful things about Avengers was every character in that film got pretty much equal bump, equal screen time, equal importance, equal story development. And that was how Joss Whedon pulled that off. I still don't know how
Because
he did
he's
it.
Joss Whedon, and
what?
I told you.
I think that question is coming from a recent article where Jeremy Renner was just talking about how he didn't feel like got to be Hawkeye because he was like in a trance for like half the movie.
Right.
There was an interview where he was like, I didn't really feel like I was even in the movie. He was a little bummed about his character. They told me I was going to be Hawkeye, and then I'm
Right.
like some zombie for the entire.
Exactly.
So that's coming from Jeremy Renner's mouth. So I'm sure the second movie, they're like, look, dude, you don't have to be the zombie in this movie, but you're in a coma. So I was like,
well, I'm
Yeah.
sure he signed on probably for 2, if not 3.
Minimum Marvel
more.
usually signs you on for 3
Right,
films, so you're
so
obligated for 3.
They may grab him for S.H.I.E.L.D. You know, if they do a S.H.I.E.L.D. movie, they're doing a S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, so I don't know if they'll do a S.H.I.E.L.D. movie. Or they may grab him for Avengers or something else. But there's no question of will he? He has to. Like, if they want him, whatever
they want him, he's obligated
they
to
have to be
gotta
very
do
selective.
it.
Like with
Yeah.
Chris Evans, he's like, I'm in for 6.
Yeah.
Right.
period.
So I'll be in 3 Captain America movies and 3 Avengers movies, but if you grab me and make me in, like, I have to do a cameo for Ant-Man, that's one of them.
Yeah.
So then you're just gonna have to pay me like $50 million to be in that. You know what I mean? There's like
Right.
a cap where they all agree. So Sam Jackson, I think, is 9 movies. It's like
That's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, we've got time for 2 more quick ones here.
All right, 2 more quick ones. For the panel, I don't know, I've been away for a few shows, so I don't know if you guys have touched on this before, but the second trailer for Cloud Atlas came out today. Anna BR asks, what do you guys think of the Cloud Atlas trailer? Personally, I'm dying to see it.
Once again, I was not impressed with the first one. I thought it was just a big convoluted mess of, look how artistic we are, woo! That actually made no common sense, wasn't coherent whatsoever. But I know, once again, people much smarter than me who absolutely adored what it looked like. I have not seen the second trailer yet. Now, once again, me saying that I think that the first trailer is a convoluted mess of, ooh, look how fancy we are, without actually telling us a damn thing. I still think that movie's probably going to be this side of absolutely remarkable. I just didn't like the trailer itself. I haven't seen the second one. Have either of you guys seen the second
I
trailer
didn't
yet?
even
I've
know
seen
that.
it.
What,
Okay,
did
what'd
it
you
just
think?
come out today?
Yeah, it came out
Yeah.
this morning.
Wow, no, I didn't see it. But let me just say, I totally disagree. I loved the first Cloud Atlas trailer.
I
cannot
like him
wait.
so much.
I cannot wait to see the movie. It like emotionally moved me. like we talked about the Wachowskis, and like we both don't like the second and third Matrix movies. We
Nobody does.
basically throw them away and just keep the first one. Like, oh, there's only one Matrix movie. So it's like this though feels so original, so new, and that they're going to be trying something very. You're right. It is an artsy film, but I don't think it's an artsy fartsy film. I think it's going to blow people away, just like the Matrix blew people away. I think this movie's going to really make a stand.
Yeah, I kind of
hope-
have the reverse field like of Hansel and Gretel. It's like, I have a bad feeling about this trailer, but I think the movie will be awesome. And it's kind of the same thing I've got with Cloud Atlas. I think it's a poor first trailer, but for whatever reason, I am firmly in the belief that the movie is going to be
I
incredible.
think they released it. It's a super long trailer too.
Yeah, it is, like
Well, the
7
first
minutes or
trailer was
something.
6
It was
minutes.
like a 5
6
minute,
minutes.
24.
But they did that on
second
purpose
trailer.
because they were like, no one knows what Cloud Atlas is. We're going to let people just soak in it for a minute. So there are, both reactions to that.
And I like the look of the second trailer. It's a shorter trailer, and I think it works just as well as the 6-minute trailer does. I am very excited for this film. I have full faith that this will be a visual spectacle, and I think that Tom Twyker, who I always mispronounce his name, so forgive me. But Tom Twyker, I think the addition of Tom Twyker will add sort of a depth and a nuance to the film that maybe the Wachowskis don't always have.
He also wrote the script with them.
And he also wrote the script with
Yeah.
them. So I am really, really looking
Now,
forward
let's
to
also
this
keep
one.
in mind here that trailers are just trailers. Now,
It is
remember,
trailers.
I still contend probably the greatest trailer ever made was the trailer for The Phantom Menace. And look how that turned out.
That's right.
I also thought that Dread was one of the worst trailers I've seen this year, and that movie's incredible.
Can't wait to see that movie.
Trailers are trailers. Just take that for where they're
Toronto.
two totally different things. The trailer from the movie, no connection whatsoever. Ryan.
All right, next question comes from Joy CSC with JL rumored. Justice League rumored being the launch pad of most DC film franchises. Is there a danger of Batman's presence being diminished? And what do you guys think about that? And second question was on that was, what do you guys think of, on the Marvel side, what do you think of Josh Trank directing Fantastic Four?
I think we talked about this before.
Chronicle?
I loved Chronicle. I loved that movie so much. I'm really excited that they are rebooting Fantastic Four. That had to be rebooted. You had to sweep that old Fantastic Four movies
Just
and
erase
out
it.
the door. Didn't happen.
Burn the DVDs.
Hey, Michael Chiklis' thing I dug, but aside from that, everything else was just So I love that idea about that. About Batman's role being diminished in the Justice League. Absolutely, his role will be diminished, but that's by necessity. Batman's a character that doesn't need to be bumped. They're going to leverage Batman to try to propel the other characters. So I think by necessity we're going to see that happen. What do you
I
think?
agree. I don't think he's going to be diminished. Look at the regular comic book series. He's just a human, and then he's like surrounded by all these like almost immortal type characters, And he's basically the nuts and bolts kind of like, let's think this through logically character in the comic book series. So I don't see it really diminished. I just hope they can put it all together right.
I just don't think it'll be a Batman-centric film.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be.
It's an ensemble film.
Yeah.
Also, Chronicle. I also really enjoyed Chronicle. I'm kind of excited to see what this becomes in terms of Fantastic Four. Curious.
I'm super excited. I've wanted to see a big budget Fantastic Four movie since I was a kid. This Fantastic Four is one of my favorite all-time superhero groups, and I hated those movies with a passion.
You didn't like the Storm Cloud?
I was the guy who released the information about the Storm Cloud.
Really?
I'm that dude. I found out about it from the special effects people. I was like, ain't it cool? Bam! How do you like that? 'Cause I was so angry that I was like, yeah, I guess suck on that. And it did. And I was like, well, maybe they'll make the Storm Cloud cool looking. Wrong. Failure. Horrible film. Bad. Both of those movies just horrible in every way possible. Story, just the way they were directed. Actors were just told to, hey, ham it up. I just can't stand it. So,
How about the way it was lit?
the lighting was all right. No, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, for me as a super fan of Fantastic Four, at least Josh Trank will do something really cool. Like, he already did Superman versus Lex Luthor. That's Chronicle. So now he's going to try something brand new with the Fantastic Four. I think it's cool that they're letting him have a shot at it. relatively brand new director. Just I think it's going to be a lot better than. I don't know. There's people who liked Fantastic Four, those other two movies, because they were like, well, it was funny and it had this humor bit.
But
to
it wasn't
I was
funny.
No, I
Okay,
don't think
quickly
there are
though,
people
we're
that
out
like
of time. But I asked a quick answer to this question: do you bring back Doctor Doom for the new first Fantastic Four?
No.
All right.
He's part of the origin, though.
All right. Well, listen, folks, that will do. We are way over time, but thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, you can watch this show again. Just subscribe to us on iTunes, or make sure you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is at youtube.com/AMC Theaters. Thank you again for joining us. Don't forget, you can join us every Monday and Thursday live at 11 a.m. Los Angeles time. That's 2 p.m. New York time. I want to thank Ryan back there, who welcome back, by the way.
Irish.
Thank you very much.
Running the chat board. I want to thank Denizen over there, who's running the whole damn thing. You can't see him because he's not on camera.
Secret man.
Roth Cornet.
Thank you.
And once again, Jon Schnepp. Thank
Hey.
you so much.
Thanks for
And
having me.
thank you guys for being here. Don't forget, check out Indiana Jones. Get your free poster and IMAX tomorrow, and make sure you go and buy your tickets at amctheaters.com
Raiders of the
for
Lost
the
Ark.
Indiana Jones Marathon on September 15th. Until next time, we'll see you guys on Monday. My name's John Campion. Until then, bye-bye.